The Epsilon 9 spaceport buzzed with activity, a constant hum of engines, chatter, and metallic clanging echoing across the massive docking bays. Ships of all shapes and sizes were lined up in organized chaos, from sleek personal shuttles to towering cargo freighters. It was a scene that could overwhelm anyone on their first visit. For Lyra, a junior engineer freshly assigned to the colony, it was equal parts awe and panic. She tightened the strap of her small backpack and glanced around. The crowd of travelers and workers surged like a river. People moving in waves, speaking in different languages, some human, some alien. Though the majority of the colony was human, Epsilon 9 had become a hub for interstellar trade, drawing visitors from neighboring star systems. Lyra's heart pounded as she realized how far from home she was both physically and metaphorically. Her supervisor, Commander Voss, strode ahead, moving with confident, precise steps that drew attention. His presence commanded respect. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had a calm authority that seemed natural. Lyra tried to keep up, her smaller frame weaving through the crowd. She admired his focus and determination, though she wasn't blind to the subtle hints of his dry humor, which sometimes surfaced in the most unexpected moments. "Lyra," Voss called over the din, his voice steady and clear. "Make sure your access codes are updated. Security at the colony has tightened since the last supply run." "Yes, Commander," she replied, fumbling with the small tablet she carried. The device was bulky by Earth standards, but standard for interstellar travel. It contained her personal records, identification, and temporary clearance codes. Lyra felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This was her first assignment away from Earth, and everything felt bigger, faster, and more intimidating than she had anticipated. The two of them reached the accommodation center, a tall, curved building glowing faintly with blue luminescent panels. A line of people had formed outside, stretching around the building in an almost serpentine fashion. The center was designed to house travelers temporarily until the colony's permanent structures were ready. However, the colony had expanded faster than anyone had anticipated, and rooms were scarce. Voss stopped at the entrance, his eyes scanning the line. "Looks like we're lucky if we get a room at all," he muttered. Lyra noticed the slight crease in his forehead, an expression she had never seen before, except perhaps in moments of serious calculation or amusement. Inside, the reception was a swirl of activity. Holographic screens hovered above the desks, displaying room availability, maps, and urgent notices. Receptionists typed rapidly, their hands moving faster than Lyra could follow, inputting guest details and assigning rooms in real time. "Next," a receptionist called. "Name and clearance level, please." Voss stepped forward, handing over his datapad. Lyra followed, trying to stay calm. The receptionist's eyes flicked between the pad and the computer, fingers tapping across an invisible keyboard projected in midair. "I'm afraid," the receptionist said finally, her tone polite but firm. "There's only one room left in this center. It's standard modular housing, but it's designed for one occupant. There's no other availability until the next cycle." Voss blinked. "Only one room?" The receptionist nodded. "Yes, sir. The colony has grown faster than expected, and reservations were limited. It's unusual. But this happens sometimes." Lyra felt her stomach tighten. She glanced at Voss. He raised an eyebrow, and she could almost see the question forming in his expression. "Well," he said slowly, "we're both adults, right?" Lyra felt a flush rise in her cheeks, but she forced a calm smile. "Don't worry, Commander," she said lightly, hoping to inject humor into the tense situation. "I'll keep it a secret." Voss stared at her for a moment, clearly surprised at her quick response, then chuckled quietly. "You have a strange sense of humor, Lyra. I like that." The receptionist handed over the room key, a small holographic cube that projected a 3D map of the unit when activated. "You'll find the pod fully functional. The AI system is adaptive, so it will adjust to both of your schedules." She gave a small smile. "Try not to break it." Voss accepted the key, his expression serious again. "Thank you. We'll manage." As they walked toward the elevators, Lyra stole a glance at the pod assignment on the map. It was located on the uppermost level, near the observation deck. From the blueprints, she could see it wasn't a typical room. Its walls were modular panels, and sensors dotted the ceiling and floor. It was designed to adjust in real time to the needs of its occupant: height, temperature, lighting, even mood. "This will be interesting," Lyra murmured, more to herself than to Voss. Voss gave a short nod, eyes forward. Adaptability is one of humanity's strengths. Sometimes, a challenge is just an opportunity in disguise. The elevator hummed softly as it lifted them upward. The city of Epsilon 9 spread out beneath them, a lattice of light and metal stretching toward the horizon. Ships darted between towers, and distant engines echoed faintly, like the heartbeat of the colony itself. Lyra felt a mix of awe and trepidation. This was a world full of potential and danger. The elevator doors slid open to a narrow corridor lined with more modular pods. The soft blue glow of the lights reflected off the polished surfaces, giving the area an almost ethereal quality. Lyra and Voss approached the final pod, the door sliding open automatically as they stepped close. Inside, the pod looked small at first glance, barely enough space for two people. But as Lyra entered, the walls shimmered slightly and expanded outward, accommodating their presence comfortably. The furniture reconfigured itself automatically. 2 sleeping units appeared. A compact workstation unfolded from the wall, and a small seating area emerged near a viewport overlooking the colony. The AI system, sensing 2 humans, spoke in a calm, neutral tone. "Welcome, occupants. The pod has adjusted to your combined parameters. Please indicate any preferences for lighting, temperature, or ambient sound." Lyra grinned. "It's like a living room that listens," she said. Voss smiled faintly. "And probably judges us silently." The AI responded without humor, its voice steady. "Judgment is not a programmed function. Comfort optimization is in progress." Lyra laughed quietly, feeling some of the tension melt away. She had expected a cramped, awkward experience. But this was far beyond what she had imagined. It was comfortable, efficient, and intelligent. As they unpacked, Voss moved to the viewport, studying the bustling colony below. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "Epsilon 9 is one of humanity's fastest-growing settlements. We'll need to adapt as fast as it grows. This pod is just the beginning." Lyra nodded, glancing around the room. "I can see why. But I hope the AI doesn't throw us any surprises tonight." Voss chuckled. "Humanity thrives on surprises, Lyra. The key is knowing which ones we can handle, and which ones we turn to our advantage." A faint beep from the AI interrupted them. "Occupants. External observation indicates an unidentified drone approaching the colony perimeter. It is maintaining distance but appears to be scanning structures." Lyra froze. "A drone? From who?" Voss's expression hardened slightly, though he stayed calm. "Unknown. Could be a reconnaissance unit from one of the neighboring colonies. Or it could be alien. Either way, we'll observe. This pod has sensors. Let's see what it can tell us." The AI projected a small holographic display, showing the drone's approach, vector, and speed. Lyra marveled at the clarity and precision of the data. The pod wasn't just a living space. It was a command center, a sentinel, and a laboratory all in one. "Looks like we're in for a long night," Lyra murmured, half excited, half nervous. Voss nodded. "Long nights are when humans show their best. Remember, adaptability is strength, and humor is a close second." Lyra smiled, thinking back to their earlier joke about the one room. Somehow, in this strange, crowded, and unpredictable world, humor and intelligence were her best allies. And as she settled into the pod, she realized that this mission and this room might teach her more than any classroom or simulation ever could. The city lights glimmered below them, the distant engines of starships echoing through the night. Humanity's reach had extended far, and Lyra felt a small thrill in knowing she was part of it. No matter how crowded or challenging the colony became, she thought, Humans would always find a way to make space both literally and figuratively for themselves. And in that quiet, expansive pod, Lyra felt that spark of possibility. They were far from home, yet perfectly equipped to face the unknown together. The pod hummed softly as Lyra adjusted the straps of her backpack, glancing once more at the holographic map projected from the AI interface. The drone hovering outside the colony perimeter hadn't moved closer, but its scanning pulses sent subtle vibrations through the pod's walls. Lyra shivered slightly, though she tried not to show it. "Any idea what it wants?" she asked, moving toward the workstation that had unfolded neatly from the wall. Voss leaned against the viewport, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the tiny blinking dot representing the drone. "Hard to say. Could be surveying the colony, or it could be testing our defenses. Either way, we stay calm and observe." The pod AI chimed softly. "Occupants. External analysis suggests the drone is maintaining a standard observation protocol. No aggressive maneuvers detected. Suggest monitoring for patterns in movement and frequency." Lyra nodded, typing quickly on the workstation. "Let's record everything," she said. "If it's from a neighboring colony, they may be curious about the new expansion modules. If it's alien, we'll want every bit of data we can get." Voss finally turned away from the viewport, his calm demeanor grounding her. "Good thinking. Humans are good at noticing details that machines might overlook." The pod adjusted itself subtly as they worked. Panels shifted, light softened, and the temperature changed by a degree or two. Lyra watched in fascination. It was unlike anything she had trained on in simulations back on Earth. The AI wasn't just responsive. It seemed alive, in a mechanical way. It reacted to their stress levels, adjusting the environment to keep them comfortable. "Feels like it's watching us," she whispered, half joking. Voss smiled faintly. "It is, but it doesn't judge us. Remember that." Despite his words, Lyra felt a thrill of unease, mixed with curiosity. A pod that could adapt so precisely might also challenge them in unexpected ways. And soon enough, it did. The lights dimmed suddenly, and the walls of the pod began to shift. The sleeping units elongated slightly, then folded into new shapes. A soft voice echoed through the room. "Occupants, initiating Scenario 1. Adaptive stress test. Objective: observe problem-solving and teamwork under controlled environmental changes." Lyra blinked. "Scenario 1? Is this a test?" "Yes," the AI said. "Designed to evaluate efficiency, coordination, and cognitive flexibility. Probability of success directly influences pod optimization." Voss raised an eyebrow. "Pod optimization?" The AI didn't answer further. The lights flickered, casting strange shadows across the walls. A low hum reverberated through the floor, and gravity shifted subtly. Lyra felt herself leaning slightly to the side as the pod simulated a tilted environment. "Commander," she said, steadying herself against the wall, "I think it's testing us." Voss nodded. "Then let's treat it like one. Stay alert." The pod's panels slid open, revealing small mechanical obstacles. A narrow passageway filled with uneven surfaces, retractable platforms, and soft barriers that moved unpredictably. It was designed to mimic a challenging terrain in zero gravity. "This is insane," Lyra said, stepping carefully. "It's like an obstacle course inside a room." Voss moved beside her. "Focus. The AI isn't trying to harm us. It's observing how we adapt." Together, they navigated the shifting obstacles. Lyra's heart raced as the platforms moved beneath her feet, the walls tilted at angles that seemed impossible. But she relied on instinct, adjusting her balance and using quick problem-solving. Voss guided her at times, offering calm advice when the pod's changes became disorienting. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The pod shifted scenarios rapidly, a simulated storm of low-level energy bursts, an illusion of alien creatures crawling along the walls, and even a sudden, intense darkness that forced them to rely on touch and memory to move safely. Through it all, Lyra realized something remarkable. The AI was not just testing physical skill. It was testing human intuition, creativity, and teamwork. Machines could calculate outcomes, but humans could improvise solutions no algorithm could predict. At one point, the pod created a narrow corridor that rotated slowly. Lyra stumbled slightly and caught herself on a wall panel. "Commander," she said, "if the rotation keeps going, I'm going to fall into the—" Voss caught her arm, steadying her. "Quick thinking. Humans rely on adaptability, not just brute strength. That's why we're still standing." Lyra grinned despite herself. "I never thought I'd get tested like this in a room, and we're supposed to be sharing it as a joke." The AI's voice broke in again. Observation noted. Problem-solving efficiency is high. Team cohesion is increasing. Initiating. Scenario 2. Before they could respond, the pod's interior transformed entirely. The walls expanded, revealing a miniature simulation of the colony outside. Tiny holographic buildings and streets stretched as far as the eye could see. And the drone that had been hovering outside was projected as part of the simulation. Moving unpredictably through the miniature city, Lyra's eyes widened. It recreated the outside world. "Yes," the AI said. "Simulated environmental stressors applied. Test. Observe decision-making under real-world external stimuli. 2040. 70. 2040. 2040. 2040. Voss crouched beside the holographic map. "The drone's pattern is erratic. If it were real, we'd need a strategy to track and respond without triggering it." Lyra studied the projection, her mind racing. "We could create a decoy path. Lead it away from sensitive areas. Maybe toward the observation deck. The drone would follow the obvious route, leaving the colony safe." Voss nodded slowly, impressed. "Good thinking. Let's do it." Working together, they manipulated the holographic controls, creating pathways, barriers, and signals to mislead the drone. The pod reacted instantly, adjusting the simulation based on their choices. Lyra realized that the AI wasn't simply observing. It was learning from them, challenging them with new variables every few seconds. The exercise was exhausting. Their movements had to be precise, their minds alert, and their coordination perfect. Yet, with each challenge, they became more synchronized. Mistakes were corrected quickly, and even when a simulated explosion knocked over part of the holographic city, they adapted without panic. After several hours, the pod's lights brightened, signaling the end of the simulation. The obstacles disappeared. The holographic city dissolved, and gravity returned to normal. "Test complete," the AI announced. Occupants demonstrated exceptional problem-solving, teamwork, and adaptive intelligence. Pod optimization complete. Future scenarios will adjust difficulty based on observed capabilities. Lyra sank into the seat near the viewport, exhausted but exhilarated. "That was incredible," she said. "I've never done anything like that before." Voss joined her, leaning back. The AI was testing more than reflexes. It was testing creativity, judgment, and trust. "And you performed very well." Lyra smiled faintly, her adrenaline still coursing. "I guess humor helps too," she said, remembering their earlier joke about sharing the room. Voss chuckled. "Yes, humans thrive on humor, especially when logic alone won't solve the problem." The hum of the pod returned to its normal, comforting rhythm. Outside, the drone had vanished, leaving the colony in calm silence. Lyra wondered if the drone had been real or part of the AI's simulation. But it no longer mattered. They had passed the test, and in doing so, demonstrated something uniquely human: ingenuity, courage, and adaptability in the face of unknown challenges. Hours later, as they prepared to rest, the pod's AI spoke once more. "Occupants, sleep cycle initiated. Environmental parameters optimized for recovery and cognitive enhancement." Lyra reclined, letting herself relax for the first time since arriving at Epsilon 9. The pod's walls shifted slightly, creating a comforting cocoon around them. She glanced at Voss, who was already settling into his unit, calm and composed. Despite the challenges of the day, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new surprises, and new responsibilities. But for now, in the safety of the pod, she allowed herself to feel proud. Humans were capable of more than even advanced machines could predict. And as the pod's soft lighting dimmed further, Lyra realized that this was only the beginning of an adventure that would challenge every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of creativity she possessed. Above all, she knew one thing. Humanity was not just surviving in the stars, they were thriving. The sun of Epsilon 9 had barely risen when Lyra awoke. The pod's gentle hum and soft glow nudged her from sleep. And for a moment, she forgot the challenges of the previous night. But then, the memory returned. The shifting walls, the holographic city, and the drone hovering outside the colony perimeter. She rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the lingering fatigue, and checked the pod interface. The AI's message flashed softly across the screen. Occupants. External anomaly detected. Drone activity has resumed. Probability of intervention required. 72%. Recommend assessment and response. Lyra's stomach tightened. The drone had disappeared during the night, but now it was back. And unlike before, its behavior seemed deliberate. Voss stirred beside her, his brow furrowed in concentration as he accessed the pod's sensors. It's closer, he said, moving along the colony's perimeter, scanning the structures systematically. It may be trying to map the entire settlement. Lyra nodded. Do we alert the colony security? Voss shook his head. Not yet. We need more data. If it's alien, premature intervention could escalate the situation. We have to understand its behavior first. The pod's AI chimed in. Occupants, recommended action. Deploy external sensors to track drone trajectory. Analysis will provide predictive patterns for potential interaction. Lyra moved to the interface and activated the external sensors. Tiny drones deployed from compartments along the pod's walls, hovering silently as they joined the larger observation system. Holographic displays projected the path of the external drone, showing its movements in real time. It's intelligent, Lyra murmured. Not random at all. It's scanning, calculating, observing. We're being studied. Voss nodded. That's what makes it dangerous. Machines can be predictable. But when intelligence analyzes you, it learns and adapts. We have to stay one step ahead. And humans are better at unpredictability than any AI. The next hour passed in tense observation. The drone circled the colony, its scanning beams sweeping over structures, workers, and vehicles. It avoided detection, blending into the skyline like a shadow. Lyra and Voss exchanged strategies, considering every possible response. Commander, Lyra said finally, if it notices us, it could alert others more. Drones. Maybe a fleet. We can't afford that. We need a distraction. Voss considered her words. True. But we must be careful. We can't just act randomly. Humans are clever. But we need precision. Lyra's mind raced. She thought back to the pod's tests, the obstacle course, the holographic city, the AI's scenarios. They had succeeded because they had used creativity, observation, and timing. Perhaps the same approach could work here. Let's simulate a decoy, she said, excitement building. We'll create a false signal, something it will focus on instead of the colony. Then we can track it and gather information without triggering its higher-level response. Voss's eyes lit up. That's risky, but effective. Humans often choose solutions others wouldn't consider. Let's do it. Working together, they accessed the pod's interface to deploy the decoy. Lyra carefully manipulated the controls, programming a holographic projection of the colony's critical structures. The projection shimmered and pulsed, a convincing target that mimicked the activity and energy signatures of the real colony. The drone reacted almost immediately. Its flight pattern shifted, drawn toward the holographic signals. Lyra and Voss watched as it circled the decoy, scanning and analyzing, unaware of their real positions. "It's working," Lyra whispered, her fingers trembling with exhilaration. "We're in control." Voss nodded. "Keep it stable. Any sudden error, and it could detect us." They spent the next hour fine-tuning the decoy, adjusting energy emissions and movement patterns. The pod's AI assisted, providing real-time analysis and feedback. Lyra realized the AI had learned from them, just as they had learned from it. The interaction was becoming a silent collaboration machine intelligence guided by human ingenuity. Suddenly, the pod's sensors detected another anomaly. A second drone appeared, smaller and faster, approaching from a different trajectory. "Two drones?" Lyra exclaimed. "I didn't think it would be that sophisticated." Voss's expression tightened. "Then we escalate the plan. Humans are adaptable. We can handle this." Lyra and Voss divided their focus. Lyra adjusted the decoy to account for both drones, creating multiple holographic targets to confuse their sensors. Voss monitored their trajectory, predicting movements and timing interventions to keep the real colony safe. The drones reacted to the simulations, changing speed and flight paths, but the humans' unpredictable strategies kept them off balance. The AI provided subtle assistance, but it was clear that the humans' intuition, their willingness to improvise and think outside rigid logic, was the deciding factor. Hours passed in tense observation. The drones, despite their intelligence, were gradually being led away from the colony, drawn into patterns designed to keep them distracted. Lyra's hands ached from controlling the interface, and her mind was sharp and alert, balancing focus, creativity, and calculation simultaneously. Finally, the drones reached the outer edges of the colony perimeter and stabilized. They hovered in place, continuing to scan the decoy but no longer posing an immediate threat. "We did it," Lyra said, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Voss smiled faintly. "Not just us. Humans did it. We anticipated, improvised, and acted when a machine could not. That's what makes us unique, the ability to adapt when the rules change." The pod's AI spoke quietly. "Observation complete. Occupants demonstrate superior strategic problem-solving under adaptive external stressors. Human creativity is unmatched in this scenario." Lyra felt a surge of pride. They had faced an intelligent, adaptive threat and used their own human ingenuity to succeed. The pod had been more than a room. It had been a test, a classroom, and a battleground, all in one. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Lyra and Voss reviewed the data collected from the drones. The information was invaluable. Flight patterns, energy signatures, communication protocols. Humanity now had knowledge that could protect the colony from future incursions, whether from neighboring human colonies or alien visitors. Voss glanced at Lyra. "You made the right choice today. You acted without hesitation, balanced risk with intelligence, and kept the colony safe. That's what humans do. We survive because we can think beyond algorithms." Lyra smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. "I just followed instinct and logic, and a little bit of luck." "Instinct and logic plus courage," Voss corrected. "Don't underestimate that." The pod's environment shifted once more, adjusting lighting and temperature for comfort. Lyra sank into a chair, letting her mind wander as the adrenaline faded. The challenges of the day had tested her, but she felt stronger, more capable, more connected to the mission and to humanity's place in the stars. Outside, the colony resumed its normal rhythm. Workers moved about, vehicles hummed along the transport tracks, and the distant stars sparkled beyond the protective dome. Humanity had claimed this small corner of the galaxy, and through ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, they were proving that they could protect it. Lyra glanced at Voss, who was reviewing the holographic data one last time. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked, nodding toward the edge of the colony, where the drones had hovered. "Perhaps," Voss replied. "But if they do, we'll be ready. Humans always find a way, not just to survive, but to thrive. For the first time since arriving at Epsilon 9, Lyra felt a profound sense of confidence. She wasn't just a junior engineer learning the ropes, she was part of a species that could adapt, innovate, and protect itself against threats that machines alone could not manage. The pod hummed softly around them. A quiet reminder that technology was a tool, but humanity, creativity, courage, adaptability was the true strength. And as they prepared to rest once more, Lyra realized that the challenges they had faced were only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous, but humans had a way of turning challenges into opportunities, problems into triumphs, and uncertainty into a stage for ingenuity. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new surprises, and new threats. But for now, in the safety of the pod, Lyra and Voss could rest, knowing that humanity's greatest advantage, its mind, its heart, and its courage, had already proven itself. The colony thrived, the drones remained at bay, and humanity's presence on Epsilon 9 grew stronger. And in the quiet hum of the pod, Lyra understood something important. Humans weren't just surviving in the stars, they were shaping the future. The calm morning of Epsilon 9 ended abruptly. A distant rumble shook the colony, subtle at first, then growing steadily louder. Lyra, still recovering from the previous day's challenges, was sitting at the workstation when the pod AI interrupted. Occupants. External threat detected. Multiple unidentified crafts approaching colony perimeter at high velocity. Estimated time to impact: 45 minutes. Recommend immediate strategy session. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She rose quickly, her mind racing. Commander Voss, they're not drones. This is something bigger. Ships. Enemy ships. Voss, standing by the viewport, observed the horizon. Tiny blips, distant but growing, marked the approach of several vessels. Sleek, dark, and unmistakably alien, they moved with precision. Unlike the drones, which had been cautious, these ships advanced aggressively. They must have detected our previous decoy operations, Voss said quietly, his calm voice belying the gravity of the situation. They're coming earlier than expected. Humans have to act and quickly. Lyra moved to the pod interface. Holographic projections of the colony and the incoming fleet appeared. We don't have weapons at this station ready for defense, she said. If they attack, most of the colony could be in danger. Voss nodded. Then we use our strengths: human ingenuity, unpredictability, and coordination. We may not have firepower, but we can control the battlefield. The pod AI, sensing urgency, adjusted its internal systems. Panels slid open, revealing auxiliary drones, surveillance devices, and energy modulators designed for emergency defense. It spoke, calm but precise. Occupants. Deployment of strategic defenses recommended. Utilize colony infrastructure for maximum advantage. Probability of survival increases with adaptive human input. Lyra's mind raced. We can't fight them directly, but we can use misdirection, the colony's layout, and the pod's systems to our advantage. Voss's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Exactly. Humans excel at unconventional tactics. Let's create traps, redirect enemy sensors, and control the engagement without letting them realize we're manipulating them. They began planning. Lyra activated external surveillance drones, sending them to relay detailed positions of the approaching fleet. Using the holographic projection, she and Voss identified critical choke points. Narrow passages where the ships would have to slow down, energy hubs that could be temporarily overloaded, and automated machinery that could be manipulated for defense. We'll force them to engage in ways they don't expect, Voss said. Humans thrive when the rules change. Machines rely on predictability, but we don't follow predictable patterns. As the alien ships drew closer, the pod's AI suggested activating automated energy pulses to temporarily blind sensors. Lyra hesitated. If we do that, it could damage parts of the colony infrastructure. We have to be precise. Voss agreed. Precision is key. Target only sections they rely on for navigation. Humans can calculate risk and act with judgment. Machines can't improvise like we can. Working together, they activated a series of energy pulses along the colony's perimeter, creating a shifting field of interference. The alien ships slowed, scanning frantically, unable to distinguish real targets from illusions. The pod's drones projected holographic decoys, further confusing the fleet. Lyra's hands moved rapidly over the controls. I've deployed holograms of key structures. They're targeting the illusions instead of real buildings. Voss nodded. Excellent. Keep them occupied. Humans can outthink them if we control the environment. Minutes stretched into tense hours as the alien fleet struggled against their manipulations. Lyra and Voss coordinated every action, guiding the drones, energy pulses, and holographic decoys with perfect timing. The pod AI provided calculations, but the humans' creativity was the deciding factor. One of the alien ships detected the decoys and began firing energy beams at the holograms. Lyra and Voss exchanged a glance. Time for the next step, Voss said. Using the pod systems, they redirected the energy beams toward a simulated power grid, causing harmless overloads in empty sectors. The aliens' sensors interpreted these as effective strikes, making them more cautious. This is working better than I imagined, Lyra whispered, exhilarated. They think they're winning. Voss's face was serious. Humans thrive on ingenuity and deception when necessary. The fleet underestimates our ability to adapt. That's our edge. Suddenly, the smallest ship in the fleet broke formation and tried to flank the colony from the east. Lyra quickly adjusted a series of defensive energy pulses, creating a temporary barrier. The ship collided with the interference field, sending sparks and energy distortions across its hull. Perfect timing, she exclaimed. The alien fleet hesitated. Their formation faltered, giving the humans critical moments to adjust the rest of the colony's defenses. Lyra and Voss moved like a single entity, anticipating the fleet's responses, improvising strategies, and using the pod systems to maximize their advantage. Hours passed in high-stakes improvisation. The aliens, advanced as they were, could not predict the human tactics. Every misdirection, every hologram, and every energy pulse exploited weaknesses in the fleet's programming. Lyra realized that this was the culmination of everything they had learned: adaptability, creativity, and courage under pressure. Finally, the alien ships, frustrated and confused, retreated slightly, reassessing their approach. Lyra and Voss allowed themselves a moment of relief, but remained vigilant. We've bought time, Voss said, but the fight isn't over. The colony's safety depends on continued vigilance and human intuition. The pod's AI spoke quietly, almost in admiration. Occupants demonstrated exceptional strategic decision-making, risk assessment, and adaptive problem-solving under high-stakes conditions. Human ingenuity has significantly reduced external threat probability. Lyra exhaled deeply, letting her shoulders relax for the first time that day. It's incredible how much we can accomplish without conventional weapons, she said. We just think, adapt, and act faster than they expect. Voss looked out the viewport, studying the retreating fleet. This is what makes humans remarkable. Not strength alone, not technology alone, but the ability to combine observation, creativity, and judgment to turn the tide against overwhelming odds. Outside, the colony resumed cautious activity. Workers moved with more awareness, scanning the skies for returning threats. The energy fields and decoys remained in place, ready for further improvisation. Lyra and Voss had turned the tide without firing a single shot, demonstrating that human ingenuity could overcome even superior alien technology. The pod's environment shifted subtly, adjusting lighting, temperature, and air composition to help them recover. Lyra sank into the adaptive seat, exhausted but exhilarated. She realized that their success had relied on uniquely human qualities: intuition, creativity, improvisation, and courage. Do you think they'll come back? Lyra asked, still catching her breath. Perhaps, Voss replied calmly. But if they do, we'll be ready. Humans don't just survive. We adapt, innovate, and overcome. That's why we thrive. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the colony in orange and purple hues, Lyra reflected on the day's events. They had faced an intelligent, coordinated external threat and emerged unscathed, not through brute force, but through strategy and human ingenuity. The pod hummed softly, a quiet reminder of the technology they had used and the tools available. But Lyra understood something deeper. Technology alone could not ensure survival. It was human creativity, judgment, and courage that had turned the tide. For the first time since arriving at Epsilon 9, Lyra felt a profound sense of confidence in humanity's place among the stars. The colony was safe, the fleet temporarily deterred, and their understanding of alien tactics had grown exponentially. Voss reclined beside her, reviewing data and projecting possible future scenarios. Tomorrow, he said, we may face new challenges. But humanity's strength is in unpredictability, creativity, and courage. That will always give us an advantage. No matter who or what arrives. Lyra nodded, exhausted but inspired. She knew that humanity's journey among the stars would be full of danger, surprises, and high-stakes challenges. But she also knew this: humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless in the face of the unknown. And as long as those qualities endured, no enemy could truly defeat them. The pod adjusted once more, optimizing for rest. Lyra reclined, letting her mind wander through the events of the day. She thought of the drones, the alien fleet, the simulations, and the countless small decisions that had kept the colony safe. Every choice had mattered. Every human instinct had been tested and proven invaluable. Above the colony, the stars twinkled coldly, distant and unyielding. But inside the pod, humanity's light burned brighter than ever. Lyra knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt ready. Humans had faced the impossible and won. And somewhere in the blackness of space, the enemy fleet retreated, aware of one undeniable truth. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and far stronger than they appeared. The colony of Epsilon 9 settled into a fragile calm after the retreat of the alien fleet. Lyra and Commander Voss stood at the pod's viewport, watching the horizon. The distant silhouettes of the ships had vanished beyond the protective dome's edge, leaving the colony in an uneasy peace. "It's quiet," Lyra said softly, the tension of the previous days still lingering in her voice. "Too quiet." "Maybe." Voss remained vigilant. "Quiet is temporary in this universe. But humans have a way of preparing for the unexpected. That's what keeps us alive." Lyra nodded, reflecting on everything they had faced. In just a few days, she had learned more about humanity's strength than she had in a lifetime of training. The pod's AI had tested them, the drones had challenged them, and the alien fleet had pushed their ingenuity to its limits. And every time, humans had adapted, improvised, and prevailed. The pod's soft hum shifted subtly, a signal that the AI was running post-event analysis. Occupants, systems report complete. Human response to external threats demonstrates unparalleled adaptability, creativity, and strategic thinking. Colony safety secured. Recommendations for further optimization prepared. Lyra smiled faintly. Even the AI is impressed. Voss chuckled. "It observes us, but it cannot replicate us. Humans aren't just reactive. We anticipate, improvise, and innovate. That's why we thrive." As they reviewed the collected data from the drones and alien ships, Lyra realized the wealth of information they now held. Flight patterns, energy signatures, reaction times, all of it could be used to strengthen the colony's defenses. But more importantly, it could teach them about the universe beyond their dome, the intelligence, strategy, and technology of other civilizations. "This data could change how we approach the stars," Lyra said. "We can anticipate threats, prepare defenses, and understand potential allies or enemies before they even make contact. Voss nodded. Knowledge is power, and humans know how to use it wisely. We are not just survivors. We are thinkers, planners, and creators. The colony's workers, oblivious to the full scale of the events, went about their tasks with quiet efficiency. Lyra watched from the viewport as transport vehicles glided along the streets and engineers repaired minor structural damages. The human presence was modest, but it was deliberate, resilient, and unyielding. "We've done more than defend the colony," Lyra said, feeling the weight of her words. "We've shown that humans can solve problems no matter how impossible they seem." Voss's eyes softened slightly as he looked at her. "That's what makes humanity special. We're not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced in every way. But we can adapt, improvise, and find solutions where none seem possible. And that is what others, alien or machine, cannot predict." The pod AI interjected. "Occupants. Environmental optimization recommends rest and mental recovery. Humans have demonstrated peak performance, but fatigue levels are high. Proper rest will maintain efficiency for upcoming operations." Lyra reclined into the adaptive sleeping unit, feeling the pod mold perfectly to her body. Despite exhaustion, her mind remained alive with possibilities. Every challenge they had faced was a lesson, a reminder that survival alone was not enough. To thrive, humans needed to act with creativity, courage, and collaboration. Voss settled into his own unit nearby. "Rest well," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we begin preparing the colony for continued growth. Humans don't just survive in the stars. We build, we learn, and we expand." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself drift into a light, careful sleep. Her dreams were filled with shifting holograms, the drones' swirling patterns, and the alien fleet's retreating silhouettes. But beneath the tension, there was a calm certainty. Humans had the tools, the mind, and the courage to face the unknown. Hours passed, and when Lyra awoke, the pod greeted her with gentle light and temperature adjustments. The colony was quiet, but active repairs, surveys, and routines continued with careful precision. Lyra quickly assessed the pod's systems and the external sensors. The alien fleet had disappeared beyond the planet's orbital range, but the intelligence gathered would inform the colony's strategies for months, even years, to come. "This information is invaluable," she said aloud, speaking to the pod. "We can strengthen the colony, anticipate threats, and even communicate with other human outposts more effectively." The pod responded smoothly. "Occupants. Recommendation: implement collected data into colony defensive algorithms and strategic planning modules. Human input essential for maximized effectiveness." Voss joined her at the interface. "Human judgment is irreplaceable. The AI can optimize, but it cannot create new strategies the way we do. That's our advantage." Lyra nodded. She realized that humans were more than the sum of their technology. Even the most advanced machines could not replicate human intuition, improvisation, and creative thinking. Those qualities had turned the tide against the alien fleet and kept the colony safe. The day passed with quiet preparation. Engineers and workers implemented energy shielding improvements. Automated sensors were recalibrated, and the pod's drones monitored the perimeter continuously. Every task was enhanced by the knowledge gathered from the drones and fleet. Humans worked efficiently, calmly, and creatively, proving their adaptability once more. By late afternoon, Lyra walked to the observation deck with Voss. The sky above Epsilon 9 was painted in orange and purple hues as the sun began to set. Beyond the colony dome, the stars shimmered with distant possibilities. "We did more than survive," Lyra said softly. "We learned. We adapted. We made the colony stronger." Voss's gaze followed hers, thoughtful and steady. "Humans thrive not just by enduring challenges, but by turning them into opportunities. We use our minds, our courage, and our creativity to shape the future." Lyra smiled. "Do you think other civilizations will notice us?" Voss's lips curved into a faint smile. They will. Humans leave a mark wherever we go. Not through sheer power alone, but through ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability. That is our legacy. The pod AI spoke once more. Occupants. External threat eliminated for now. Colony status. Stable. Human ingenuity has ensured safety and optimized defensive readiness. Recommendation. Continued vigilance and creative adaptation. Lyra glanced at Voss, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment that was hard to describe. They had faced tests, simulations, drones, and a full alien fleet, and emerged victorious, not through weapons, not through brute strength, but through the qualities that made humans remarkable. As night fell, the colony lights glimmered across the metallic structures. Lyra and Voss returned to the pod. Tired, but satisfied. The AI prepared a quiet environment for rest, and they reclined in the adaptive units. The soft hum of the pod, combined with the calm of the colony below, created a rare moment of peace. Lyra closed her eyes and thought of Earth, of the lessons she had learned, and of the stars beyond the dome. Humanity had reached far, but the journey had only begun. Every challenge was an opportunity to prove that humans were clever, resourceful, and capable of overcoming the impossible. Voss spoke quietly from his unit. The galaxy is vast and unpredictable. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities. But humans are ready. We always are. Lyra smiled faintly. Yes, we are. As sleep overtook her, she realized that the events of the past days, the pod's tests, the drones, the alien fleet, were more than survival stories. They were proof that humans, no matter how small in number or limited in resources, could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast challenges that seemed insurmountable. The pod hummed softly, adapting to their needs, a silent witness to human ingenuity. Outside, the colony rested under the starlit sky, unaware of the battles fought and won in their defense. Humanity had proven itself again. Clever, courageous, and unstoppable. The universe was vast, but humans were ready to leave their mark. And in the quiet, safe cocoon of the pod, Lyra drifted into sleep with a sense of purpose and pride. She knew one undeniable truth. Wherever humans went in the stars, they would not just survive, they would thrive, leaving an indelible mark of creativity, resilience, and brilliance. The colony of Epsilon 9 would stand as a testament to human strength, ingenuity, and spirit. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, unseen observers, alien or machine, would recognize that humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and a force to be reckoned with. For in the heart of humanity, the spark of ingenuity and courage would always burn bright.